Joining us right now, an actual expert on college sports, or I'm just a fan, Seth Davis. He's the college hoops reporter for Sports Illustrated and CBS Sports, and he's the author of a new book, Wooden, A Coach's Life. Seth Davis, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you. How are you?
Good. Let's start with Wooden, because obviously about the legendary coach John Wooden. UCLA made it to the Sweet 16, looking pretty strong, actually, out of the Pac-12. Is that a surprise?
I wouldn't call it a surprise. I mean, I don't want to, diminish their accomplishment. Getting to the Sweet 16 is a great accomplishment, and certainly beating Arizona in the Pac-12 tournament was a great accomplishment. But, they beat Tulsa and Stephen F. Austin to get there. So now there's a different matzo ball they got here with Florida. I mean, Florida's a really good team. And the thing that UCLA is going to have to do in this game, from a skill and talent perspective, they are toe-to-toe with Florida. In fact, they may even have a slight edge in that department. But Florida's got toughness and experience and size on the interior that UCLA is going to have to deal with.
So that's sort of I think many people would say that's one of the premier matchups tonight, because Florida is the top-ranked team going in, and of course UCLA has the major legacy. What about Dayton-Stanford? Did anyone have this in their bracket?
Well, I've been saying in November that either Dayton or Stanford would make the Elite Eight. You didn't hear me say that?
I missed that, Seth Davis.
Maybe I meant to say that. No, this is the beauty of the NCAA tournament, because certainly nobody would have predicted this. And I often say that the only thing we can predict about the NCAA tournament is that it's unpredictable, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, the purpose of the tournament is not to identify the best team. It's to figure out who can win 6 games in this thing.
As a Michigan man, Dayton will always be my favorite team now, since they knocked out Ohio State in the first round. And let's swing to Michigan tomorrow. They are playing, and also they're playing Tennessee. And Michigan State plays number 1 Virginia, a local team here in the D.C. area. Let's start with Michigan State, Virginia. Those are two. I mean, that's a major matchup.
Well, I'm hoping they pack some extra ice packs, because those are the two most physical teams left in the tournament, and they play physically, and that's what's going to make it such an interesting game. So how is the game officiated? Who can stay out of foul trouble? That's going to be key. Michigan State, was my preseason number 1 team, and a lot of us who cover the sport have been saying, if they could get healthy. They dealt with so many injuries. I mean, a foot injury and a mononucleosis and blisters and a shoulder, and then the one guy who seemed to be escaping all that got angry and punched the table and broke his hand and was out for 5 weeks. So it's been that kind of season for Michigan State, and their point guard Keith Appling is still dealing with a wrist injury that's really inhibiting him. But it's going to be a grinded-out half-court type of game. Virginia is very comfortable playing that way, and so is Michigan State. I mean, I think the difference is Michigan State has a big player in Adrian Payne. He had 41 points in their first game against Delaware. And he just gives him an added dimension, both in terms of his scoring ability at 6'10", but also his ability to play the screen and roll, which is a major part of college basketball now. So I give the edge to Michigan State, but it's certainly a matchup that you circled when the brackets came out and said, boy, if these two get a chance to play each other, it's going to be something else.
Our guest is Seth Davis. He's the college hoops reporter for Sports Illustrated and also CBS Sports. And let's zoom out from the X's and O's here for a minute in the matchups. Just talk about the NCAA tournament as it is. I mean, it seems like it has been an incredibly successful tournament already. As the revenue comes in and the attention comes in, what do you think of the movement toward possibly paying some of these athletes and moving away from the what many people think is an unfair practice of having these athletes make so much money for the colleges and the networks, and they're not allowed to get a job at all?
Well, I would respectfully disagree with the premise of your question, because the fact is that these athletes are being compensated quite handsomely. They are provided with free tuition, free books, housing, food. From a basketball standpoint, they're getting the best training in the world. They're getting first-rate conditioning with a strength coach. They're getting coached by the brightest minds of the game. They're getting incredible game experience, television exposure, marketing. They are getting every type of preparation that you could possibly want. And really, of all these players that are in the tournament or in Division I, only 1%, if that, really have the ability to make money professionally as players, and that option is available to them now. They have to wait till they're 19, but that's an NBA rule. That's not an NCAA rule. So, people like to say, well, let's give them more money because this is a free market and this is a business. Well, the free market dictates that if they want to go make money, they have the option to do that. For example, I mentioned Florida. They have 4 seniors. Nobody's forcing those 4 seniors to be college players. If they were good enough to be professionals, they could make money as pros. Now, there's more that we can do for the student athletes, and I give you a long list of ways that I think they're getting the short end of the stick. But I think too often it's couched in a business free market argument, but without really sort of acknowledging the realities of the free market and how much compensation and how many benefits and privileges they really do get.
Let's get your predictions. We got to get you on the record as we emerge Sunday. Who are the Final Four, Seth Davis? You're the expert.
Well, I'm the expert, and I often ask that has nothing to do with my prediction ability. Quite obviously, if you've seen my predictions, it's like I laugh. Sometimes I wonder, how many times can I be wrong before people stop asking me to predict? So I'll give you my thoughts. I do have 3 of my Final Four teams still available, so I'll stick with them: Florida, Michigan State, and Wisconsin out of the West. I did have Wichita State. That was an incredible game they played against Kentucky, and now we have a great Sweet 16 matchup between Kentucky and Louisville. I'll go with the crowd and go with Louisville out of the Midwest. I almost picked them the first time around, but really liked Wichita State and wanted to see them do well. So, and then I had Wichita State in the final game. So now that they're out, I'll put Louisville in the final game and have Florida over Louisville in the championship game. And any similarities between what I just predicted and the actual course of events is strictly coincidental.
You're killing me. I was hoping that you'd agree with me on my dream final, Michigan versus Michigan State. But
well, that could very well happen. I don't know if the state will survive if that does happen, but I'll tell you, that would be quite interesting. That would be quite interesting.
Seth Davis, Sports Illustrated and CBS Sports. So great to have you, and thank you for our Sweet 16 preview.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hope everyone enjoys the tournament.